is the Liberty Blue Rangers Podcast. With Andrew Chelby and Nick Zararis.
Rangers fans, welcome to the best Rangers podcast in town. I am Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis, and we are Liberty Blue. We scream about the Rangers so that you can save your voice. That's how deeply we care about you, and we appreciate that you've joined us for the ride. This is episode 27, live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll put the full video up on our YouTube at Liberty Blue Podcast, and the audio version will be available as an audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts as well. Search Liberty Blue on your favorite podcast platform, and it should be there. Give the show that shiny and illustrious 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really means more than I can say in words. It helps the show out more than you think it does. We are at Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Chelney Andrew, Chelney Andrew, alongside Nick Zararis, Nick Zararis. Those are our personal Twitter handles to follow as well. Nick, I can't believe I'm saying this after the November that we've had, but the Rangers have won 7 in a row.
Hockey's weird, man. We've been talking about it for a while now. I'm updating I'm getting the links for Twitter, for Twitch and YouTube on our Twitter while we're doing this, and that's why I'm looking at my phone. But yeah, we've been saying for a while now, the team is underperforming their talent level. There's too much talent for this team to be playing as poorly as it was for the better part of the month of November. There's a couple really good telltale stats that speak to that, how poorly they played in November and how much better they're playing now. But to your point, it's just good that they're winning games again. It's not pretty every single night. There's definitely things they need to improve on. But this is worlds better than we were talking about 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we thought the coach was going to get fired and that this team could miss the playoffs. But based on how the last, I would say, 2 weeks, the 7 games, going back, they didn't play great the week leading up to this past week. They didn't play great against the Devils. They didn't play great against the Leafs. They took care of business against 2 god-awful teams over the weekend. But we're headed in the direction. We kept asking for progress to see some improvements, and we're getting that. Of course, there's a ways to go, but we're making some headway, and that is encouraging.
The thing about this Rangers team right now, over the course of these past 7 games, is that nothing has fundamentally changed, and that
I would disagree with.
What the helmet throw? I apologize. The helmet throw was the reason the Rangers have not lost the game. But the thing about how the Rangers have played, and if you look at our Twitter page, and we quote tweeted this earlier a couple of days ago, was in the beginning of the season the Rangers were dominating all the possession and all the fancy analytics that comes with that part of the conversation, but they were losing. And now the Rangers are doing the opposite of that, and they're winning because hockey is a stupid, silly, ridiculous sport that hinges on nothing because it's a silly, ridiculous sport that we all enjoy watching and talking about. But the Rangers right now, listen, they've won 7 in a row, so I don't want to complain too much about it right now. Listen, as long as they're winning, everything else is kind of secondary. The most important thing right now is that they're scoring more goals than their team. But with that being said, it's not that you won, it's how you win. Are the Rangers playing better than the other team for the majority of the game? For a lot of these wins, especially the one against Colorado that we talked about last week, the answer is no. Against Chicago, a team that they should have won in Madison Square Garden a few weeks ago, they should have won that game, and they got their revenge last night. A team that looked awful, and their goalie looked awful, and the Rangers actually scored a goal, so that was nice. But did they look good against some of the other teams? Against New Jersey, they looked pretty bad for a lot of the game. If they didn't score those 2 goals in 7 seconds, the Devils win that game. So they win again. Great, good, perfect, stupendous. But are they playing well? I don't know if the answer is yes.
Okay, so to your point about playing well, the thing I said before, and I think that this is the goal here, is they're making progress. They're getting closer to the style of hockey they want to play. For the better part of November, they were playing god awful. They were a disjointed, clunky team. They really couldn't break out of their zone with any speed. They couldn't create anything in transition. This is not a particularly good forechecking team. So without that rush offense, they really struggled generating offense. And even though they were creating offense in terms of the expected goals and controlling play, getting more scoring chances than the other team, it wasn't going in the net. And over the last, I would say, week and a half or so, they've played teams with a little bit less defensive structure. There's a little bit more space. They've been able to create things in transition. And this is the key. And someone I was talking to the other day about the game, specifically against Toronto, pointed this out. Yeah, the Rangers got outchanced. Hang on, I wrote it down. They got outchanced 48-29 at 5-on-5. The thing about that I thought was interesting is the vast majority of those Toronto shots were not particularly good shots. I went back and watched the highlights of that game this morning when I was doing show prep, and the Leafs had that one shift in the second period where they had like 2.5 minutes in the offensive zone. None of those scoring chances was particularly good. They were all more or less from the perimeter. That's the thing I tried to emphasize over the summer, and I'm going to reiterate here. The Rangers want the other team to shoot. They want them to shoot from outside of the circles, from the point. Those low danger chances, give Igor a clean line of sight or block the shot, which they did a lot of against Toronto. I want to say they had 7 or 8 block shots. Yes, you would rather them have the puck, but Igor's making saves. You're blocking difficult shots. That is closer to the type of team they want to be. We saw this last year where they wanted to play this way, but they didn't have the forward talent to play a transition game where they were able to take advantage of other teams taking bad chances. Because that's what those are. Those low danger chances that immediately result in the other team getting possession, those are turnovers. Like, yes, they get recorded as a shot on goal, but a 35-footer with no velocity into the goalie's shin pads that the defenseman can recover and get to offense immediately with one pass, that's a turnover in the grand scheme of things. You don't think of it as that, but that's what that is. They are getting closer to where they want to be. And yes, the biggest reason the Rangers have been better the last 2 weeks is Igor. There's no doubt and there's no question about it.
Not the helmet throw, are you sure?
You could say that, like, hey, maybe that he was a little scared of Trouba throwing the helmet at him. If you want to say that, I could believe you at that, oh, this guy's unhinged. If I keep messing up, he's going to throw that at me. Okay. If you wanted to make that argument, sure, I'd listen to that. But I wrote it down because this is the entire difference. In October, 913 save percentage, November, 912, December, 935. That is the difference. That is the entirety of the difference. That's the reason the Rangers have won 7 games in a row. Their Vezina winning goalie is playing like a Vezina winning goalie again. That's really all it comes down to for me.
That and the Rangers are actually scoring goals, because a lot of the times in November and October where if they didn't have horrendous luck, a lot of those goals would have went in as well. A lot of those shots early on in the
They
year
have the most posts in the
hit the
league. They have
post or
32.
hit off of 7 people in front of the net and just trickled wide. I think Kakko has to be leading the league in goals that should have been goals and then just missed the net by 6/10 of a centimeter. Like, he has to be leading the league in that. The Rangers are actually scoring goals now, and that also is one of the things that needs to be highlighted. Is if the Rangers played some of these games a month ago, they would have lost some of them because the puck luck just wasn't there. Whatever schneid they were in, no matter what kind of shot they were taking, those shots that are going in now just weren't going in a month ago. So now at least these shots are going in. The Rangers have fun, like their style of play fundamentally is the same, and a lot of these shots that they're taking fundamentally are the same ones that they took a month ago when they were losing all those games. But now these shots are actually going in as opposed to going off the post or just going wide or getting blocked by someone's toe and missing the net. Like, these shots are actually going in. So the puck luck is starting to finally get on their side, and coupled that with Igor Shesterkin playing out of his mind again, because the Rangers love nothing more than relying on their goaltender to make every save known to mankind in order to win a hockey game. We've seen this now for 16 years, where Henrik Lundqvist started in 2005, 2006, and now we're here in 2022, nearly 2023, and the formula hasn't changed. Have your goaltender stop everything and hope some of your shots go in the net. Like that's really been the strategy for this franchise for nearly 2 decades. And for Shesterkin, I mean, he's playing a lot. He's playing a lot better. You have the kid line playing well, especially last night. Again, against a team like Chicago, where the defense doesn't exist, they're paying Seth Jones a boatload of money to do cardio, I think, or something along those lines. And they have Soderblom in net, who didn't look all that good, and the Rangers took advantage of that, and that's good. That you want to see the best teams dominate bad teams. That's how sports are created. Like if you're a really good team, you wipe the floor with the bad teams so that you can move on to better opponents. And the Rangers looked like they were a good team against Chicago.
And against Philly.
And against Philly as well. I mean, we saw the Kevin Hayes quote earlier today of he's not very happy he got benched against the Rangers, but
they should healthy scratch the coach. I think the Flyers should be the first NHL team in history. I think that's a great idea. I think if you get a 2/3 vote of the 18 skaters and the goalie, so if you get 2/3 of 19, whatever that checks out to, like 13 out of 19 or whatever, I think you should have to be. I think they should play without a coach. I think they should go full Mighty Ducks and be like, we're not playing with a coach.
Is a healthy scratch? If you were going to healthy scratch your head coach, why not just fire him?
Because it's about sending a message back to the coach.
That's right.
Yeah, because, hey, man, Comcast doesn't want to pay another coach not to coach. That's the reason the Sixers haven't fired Doc Rivers yet. There's a reason. There's a reason some of these teams are doing that. And one last thing on this opening salvo before we start getting a little more detailed. The other thing that's changed and that's improved, the power play is getting closer to what it was last year. They are scoring a lot more at 5-on-5. And the reason, Andrew, I think somebody listened to the show or somebody used common sense in the Rangers organization and said, hey, Artemi, hey, Adam Fox, you guys need to shoot more. So the defense has to respect that and it'll free Mika up. And that's what's happened the last 2 or 3 weeks. That shot, the Zibanejad one-timer is there because Adam Fox is shooting more from the point, because Panarin is shooting from the opposite circle, and Trocheck has gotten a couple tap-ins being around the net front in that floating role in the middle between the two circles. There are tangible signs of improvement. The team knows what it needs to do. And I just thought of something else while we were talking about this. The fourth line has actually been pretty good the last week and a half or so. I mean, we like to make fun of Sammy Blais all the time, but he's been an effective fourth line forward. Of course, you don't want to trade what they traded for a fourth liner, but a good fourth liner who is defensive responsibly and isn't on the. He hasn't been on the ice for a goal against in the 7-game winning streak. Sammy Blais. He's got 100% goals for percentage at 5-on-5 over the last 2 weeks. Granted, he hasn't played in all 7 of those games, but I think he's played in 5 of the 7. That's fine. You have him on the fourth line. You have Brodzinski, who I think is better than Carpenter. I think he's better than Reeves.
Sure,
he's probably better than Sammy Blais.
Scored a goal, which Sammy Blais has not done in 43 games as a New York Ranger, by the way. Not that anyone's keeping track or anything, but 0 and 4. The two of us and Sammy Blais have the same amount of goals as New York Rangers, so there's that.
So you need to get a dry erase board that you can put over your shoulder, like a workplace safety, like days without a Sammy Blais goal, and keep it going until he finally scores.
There you go.
That's what you need to be doing. The fourth line being good, that's very important because the fourth line was god-awful the first month and a half of the season in terms of the goals against. That's encouraging. Now, the big problem, of course, is we don't know how long Phil Hedl is going to be out for. The Christmas break does help that they're not going to play for a couple days. Hopefully he's fine in 2 weeks or so, but I would not expect them to rush him back. He's already had a diagnosed concussion this season. You play it safe with this kind of thing. It's important you don't rush him back. Ideally, you would like to have him for these 2 games this week. These are 2 very important games against Pittsburgh and against the Islanders. Divisional opponents, first time playing Pittsburgh this year, last game against the Islanders this year. You would like to have Hedl out there. I don't know what they're going to do lineup-wise. I know against Chicago, they bumped Brodzinski up, but I don't think you can play Brodzinski with the kids. I think you're going to have to reconfigure the lineup a little bit to be a little more evenly distributed throughout the lineup and not rely on the kids to drag Brodzinski around. But I am not as worried as I was a couple of weeks ago. Yes, there is still plenty to work on. Like you were saying during your opening point there, I agree with you that they're not 100% where they need to be, but they're playing the style of hockey they want to play. They're relying on Shesterkin, yes, but that is part of the team design. They want the other team to shoot. They want Shesterkin to get clean sight lines, to have chances to make saves. This is exactly what you've seen a lot of teams do. You saw the Islanders do this twice. You saw the Rangers do this last year. You saw the Islanders do this going to the conference final twice. When your goalie is your best player or your second best player, you need to feature him. And they actively want the other team to shoot those crappy chances because it's going to get the Rangers to offense faster. Now they just need to be better about what they do once they get the puck back.
Well, that's what I wanted to mention, right? It's like in a 60-minute hockey game, especially in the NHL, the expectation is the other team is going to have shots on goal. Like you don't go into a hockey game thinking, yeah, the other team's going to have 0 shots on goal the whole game, and your goal is going to be doing a barbecue in his own zone, and everybody's going to have a great time. That's not realistic. Like even in like NHL 23, that if you're playing, the other team's going to get a shot on goal, even if you're absolutely dominating, right? Like
Not if you play on rookie. I don't know if
well,
you've seen this video or not, but there's a glitch that has been in the NHL franchise since the first one on the next gen consoles, which was I think was NHL 15, where if you play on the lowest difficulty and you just skate into a corner with the puck, the computer won't dispossess you. It'll just pin you to the boards for the length of the game. When I was playing NHL like seriously, and especially HUT, where you have to play all those stupid games against the computer to get stuff every week, I would score one goal, put my controller down, and watch TV and wait for the game to end. So you can get away with that.
Right.
You can get away with that.
Stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, like you want your goalie to see bad shots because a lot of the times too, that's how a goalie gets into a game. You can warm
100%.
up and get warm up shots and you do all these things, but over the course of a game, if your goalie is just standing around for 15, 20 minutes and not seeing a whole lot of action, that's how a goalie can get cold throughout the course of a game. So if you can get the other team to shoot from outside that golden area and then just shoot from the blue line or outside the slot and then just get the goalie to make some easy saves, that's a good way to get the goalie into a rhythm. So I'm not saying that the Rangers' goal needs to be for them to keep the opponents to 0 shots a goal the whole game. That's not what I'm saying. But the thing about the Rangers is that their 5-on-5 offense still kind of doesn't exist. Of course, against Chicago, against Philadelphia, these are really bad teams. So you can't really summarize their offensive threat against really bad defensive teams because, like, I mean, if you put us out there, I feel like we can at least like get a scoring chance or two against these bad teams. So I don't want to be like, okay, well, the Rangers scored 7 goals and not all of them on the power play, so 5-on-5 offense fixed. Like that's a silly way to approach things. They won against Toronto because Jimmy Vesey scored. Like that's it.
Yes.
The top line was awful.
They got hemmed in, and they were hard matching them against Austin Matthews, which I didn't like that decision. If you're playing Zibanejad and Panarin together, you can't be deploying Zibanejad as the shutdown center because Panarin, when Panarin wants to play defense, he can be very good defensively. He just doesn't choose to play defense all that often. You've seen him a couple times where one of the defensemen gets caught up ice and he back checks really hard, catches up to the play, breaks it up. But night to night, he's not giving you an amazing defensive effort. So I don't like hard matching Zibanejad against Austin Matthews or against Mitch Marner. I really do think, and I'll let you get back to your point here. I think your matchup line, your designated matchup line, needs to be that Trocheck, Kreider, Vesey line because Vesey's been outstanding defensively this year. You brought Trocheck here because he's supposed to be your best defensive center. And Kreider has historically been a good shot suppressing winger. That is your shutdown line. That is who should be on the ice against Austin Matthews or against Mitch Marner. Try and find favorable matchups for Zibanejad and for Panarin, especially if they're going to be dragging around Gaudreau. Granted, Gaudreau had a great game against Philly. He got on the board, goal and an assist. He got the Broadway hat after the game.
Joe Micheletti, by the way, spent like the entire third period talking about how everybody was wrong about Barclay Goodrow, and he was like, "Oh well, you know, there are so many questions around Barclay Goodrow playing the top 6. Oh well, if you look at the way he played against Philadelphia, I mean, look, he's got a goal, he's got an assist, he's doing such a good job." It's like, dude, Joe, sir, it's Philadelphia. I don't know how to break this to you, Joe. It's a bad team. It's a bad team, and against a good team like the Maple Leafs, as you were watching the other day, he did absolutely nothing. So I just thought that
I
was
know
really
how
funny.
I know how I can explain this to in a way that'll make sense to non-analytically inclined people. I was trying to think of the right metaphor. So you have a tube of toothpaste that has basically nothing left. If you only need toothpaste for yourself, you can probably find a way to get a little bit more out of that. But if you need to get 3 other people in your house to brush their teeth, and you're squeezing it all the way out and there is nothing left in there, that is the equivalent of what the Rangers are doing playing Barclay Goodrow on the first line. If he's on the fourth line and you only need him to play 12 minutes a game and to kill penalties, he can do that. You're asking him to play 15 minutes a game at even strength and kill penalties and play with Zibanejad and Panarin. He's doing an okay job in the offensive zone. But we need to be realistic here. You did not sign this guy to be your first line right wing. And this will be part of the discussion I want to have in the next part of the conversation in terms of how they want to roll out their lineup, especially without Hedel. But it's very frustrating when you know there's a better lineup configuration. Barclay Goodrow has utility. He has value as a hockey player. The Rangers aren't putting him in a great position to succeed, and that's why people get frustrated with what he gets paid, how they're using him. And like, it's great he's going to have a career high in points this year. He's never played this many minutes a game in his entire life. That's why he's going to set a career high in points this year.
The thing about Goudreau is that we talk about his contract. We talk about where he gets slotted in. If he was playing bottom 6 minutes and was making half of what he's making now, and not, I think it was a 7-year deal or something, 6-year
6
deal,
years,
6 years,
3.6.
something absolutely asinine to give a bottom 6 player. But if he was playing bottom 6 minutes and with a contract that wasn't absolutely ludicrous, I would be saying nothing about it. If he was playing in the position that he's supposed to be playing in and not making that kind of money with that kind of term, I'd be thrilled. It's not about it's not about Barclay Goodrow as a player specifically. It's what the coach needs him to do and is asking him to do, and the kind of contract that Chris Drury gave him. It's kind of unfair, from at least for me, to be like, oh, well, Barclay Goodrow isn't doing well in the top 6 because he's not a top 6 forward, but he's getting kind of paid like one to a certain extent. The Gerard Gallant is using him like a top 6 forward, and the problem is that because he got that goal and an assist against Philadelphia, that is now enabling Gerard Gallant to be like, oh, this is working. Oh, he's so obviously a top 6 center. Oh, at all the media, at all the haters, look at how great of a job he's doing. He's got the points. He looks so good against a trash can team. But look at that. Like he's piling up the points. And that's one of the issues that I have
here to record points, which defeats the entire purpose.
Right, dude. He's here. He's here to be the kind of Swiss Army player that you need in that bottom 6 that can score occasionally, but overall is just a solid 2-way player that you need to have in that role. But he's not getting paid like that, and he's not getting deployed like that, and that's been the issue with Barclay Goodrow. Like if we were the coach and we put Barclay Goodrow on the 3rd and 4th line and he was out there doing the things that he was really good at doing, no issue, zero issue. But because he's getting played with Panarin, because he's playing with Panarin and Zibanejad on the first line, a line that he's not expected to be playing in, and that line is getting dragged down because he's there, because he's not used to playing with this kind of talent. He's not only is he playing with that first line, he's going up against the other team's best talent as well, and he is not fitted for that kind of role, which is why whenever he gets deployed with that top line, the entire 5-on-5 offense of that line is non-existent. It's non-existent. He's not he's not built for that kind of position, and Gerard Gallant continues to put him out there. And the goal and the assist against Philadelphia is only going to enable Gallant to keep putting him there.
Okay, so last point on, I want to talk one more thing about Igor before we move on to talking about how they want to use Kravtsov in the lineup. The biggest indicator that things are turning around is over the last 3 weeks, he has gone up that goal saved above expected leaderboard every single week, multiple spots. So when before the Blues game, That game, he was, I want to say 15th or 16th in goal saved above expected, with like 3 or 4 above expected. Week after that, up to 11th. Last Monday, going into the Devils game, he was 11th. Today, he was 7th on Evolving Wild, and I want to say 8th on Money Puck. So he is incrementally getting up there, saving half a goal above expected every game at 5-on-5. He's getting there. Granted, you're probably not going to end up with what he had last year. I think he had 34 goals saved above expected. You get 15 to 20 over the course of an 82-game season, 50-something starts. You sign up for that every day. The save percentage is going up. That's encouraging. The goal save above expected is going up. That's encouraging. That's the biggest thing. This team is designed for Shesterkin to play a massive role. And it's one of the reasons why I try not to fall into the trap of saying, well, the goalie's carrying them. He's their best player. Him and Adam Fox are the two best players on this team. Without either of them, the entire house of cards falls apart. There is no way for this team to be successful without either of those guys. They have designed this roster for Shesterkin to have an important role. He's going to have to make a lot of saves every single night, but he has the ability to do it. It's just a matter of not milking him too dry, which the Rangers have been known to ask their goalies to do a little bit too much over time. And the other part of this is they need to do more in transition. They are a maddening team to watch in transition. I understand the guys, especially the third defensive pair. Gallant just tells them, get rid of the puck. Treat it like a hand grenade. Just get it out of the zone. Reset.
Why is Ben Harper playing, by the way? Can we address that real quick? What, like, I put this out.
He's not an NHL player.
I mean, he tall. Yeah, I mean, we make the joke about Tyler Myers. We make the joke about, you know, like this. That's kind of the shtick here, is that, like, just because you're tall doesn't mean you're good at the sport of hockey. The thing, and I posted this on our Twitter page as well, at Liberty Blue Pod. If you haven't been following, make sure to follow on Twitter. But like the point that I made is, why play somebody that you know is bad in Ben Harper, as opposed to somebody that's really young and might be bad?
Because the coach is trying to win every single game, and they would rather take the perceived higher floor than the perceived higher.
But what is the higher floor? He's bad at hockey. Like,
yes, I understand.
What is his floor? He's tall, though.
I agree with you. I agree.
He's tall.
He's not good. He's Ben Harper. Ben Harper's 27 years old and has 140 career NHL games. This is a fringe guy. The most games he's played in a season were on god-awful Ottawa teams. This is not a serious candidate for that role long-term. I do not understand why they've been so hesitant for the bigger picture. Like we talked about last week, we talked about 2 weeks ago. This team will go as far as the young guys are able to carry them, because ultimately they are the ones who have to be here for the long term. Eventually, we'll have to worry about, well, can Lafreniere replace Kreider's production? Can Kakko get you 3/4 of someone's production? Because remember, at the end of the day, you're trying to hit that. You need 200 even strength goals most years to make the playoffs. You're trying to get to that number whatever way you can. Eventually, you're going to have to worry about that bigger picture. But for right now, those kids need to make up the gap between them, the Rangers, and the teams that are better than them, because that's the only real flexibility they have, at least till they get closer to the deadline. I would prefer to be seeing Zach Jones. I would prefer to be seeing Hayek than seeing Ben Harper. Hayek isn't that good, but at least he's better than Ben Harper.
What a sight to behold. We're pleading. Pleading for Libor Hayek to return to the lineup, because he's better than Ben Harper. It's not saying a whole lot, but Libor, like, we're at that point of the Rangers season where we're literally just being like, can we please get Libor Hayek back on the ice? Like, the thing about it is, what's maddening to me also is that, like, this spot just could have been Nils Lundqvist's spot, as opposed to them riding this carousel between.
They weren't going to play one of them on the offhand. They weren't going to do that.
I mean, I would rather. Nils Lundqvist has more talent on the offhand than Ben Harper could ever dream of. Like, that's the point I'm trying to make. Is that, like,
I don't disagree with you.
They don't have a sixth defenseman. Like, that's the issue. Is if let's say, for example, that Ryan Lindgren goes down with injury, or Adam Fox or Jacob Trouba, or whoever in the top four goes down and is out for 6 weeks. What is the Rangers' plan? What kind is their bottom pair going to be? Libor Hayek and Ben Harper is that their plan? They don't have a contingency plan. They don't have a safety net. So they don't even have a plan for their sixth defenseman right now. Their rotating cast is Zach Jones, who wasn't very good. If we're being honest, like this season, he wasn't very good as a New York Ranger. Your other options right now have been Libor Hayek, who's been, I mean, better than he has been, but which isn't saying a whole lot, but he's better. And you have Ben Harper. They won't try Matthew Robinson for reasons. I don't know what those are, but they just refuse to do it. They won't try anybody else, so they don't even have a plan for their sixth defenseman. So I understand why they moved on from Nils Lundqvist in that kind of context of if he's not playing top 4 minutes, he's not going to play his offhand, and that's you're kind of wasting him at that point. But you need a plan for your sixth defenseman, and if somebody goes down and you need another defenseman, the Rangers are done.
They are going to trade for a defenseman. I am 1,000%. You could, I don't know. The one I was talking with somebody the other day, and Josh Califin wrote in his Substack was Kulikov. I think Kulikov would be fine for that left-handed third pair guy. They need one more body on the back end. They need one more forward. We've known that since the season started. We didn't think they would run the whole season with the Zach Jones, Braden Schneider third pair, and that took all of a month before Hayek started rotating back in, and Jones ended up back in Connecticut. Okay. The thing I want to talk about now, and this is the big picture, and I want to talk about it in the context of what Gallant said last week, where he said, I know what our perfect lineup looks like, but, and then didn't elaborate, didn't say what it looked like, and it gave the vibes of that episode of The Office where they were interviewing the guy to be the new regional manager. And he's like, so I have a plan that'll cut our costs in half and will increase our profits threefold. So can you tell us? Well, no, because then you don't have to hire me. Well, how do we know you actually have a plan? That's what Gallant's saying. I know what the perfect lineup is, but not using it is. And I think, and it sucks that I say we're at this point, but it does feel like they're only using Kravtsov as an audition to get rid of him, to use him, to showcase him for a trade for either a prospect defenseman, somebody same kind of ilk of young upside, hasn't really caught on, or using him with a draft pick or something to go get a bigger marquee player, which would probably end up being a forward, because I don't think they would go out and trade for a big defenseman based on how they have their cap allocated and the type of role that person would be coming into. So I think realistically, they're auditioning Kravtsov for a bigger role. And I would like to say that the Hedl injury is going to force them to reconfigure the lineup and that he's going to get a chance to play with skill players as opposed to on the fourth line. He scored last night because Gallant threw him a bone. He let him take a shift with Zibanejad and Panarin. That was nice to see. But it does feel like Kravtsov is only here in the lineup at least to showcase himself for a trade, which is what we've been saying for a month now, that if you're going to keep him, you might as well play him to auction him off for something, because sitting him around and only giving him 9-10 minutes a game, it's not helping anyone. If you want him to be an asset, he's got to play.
And it sucks too because Kravtsov has looked really good. Like he's
been better defensively too.
He's been really good at both ends of the ice. There's been multiple times where he's not only looked good, but he's been very noticeable. Where if the puck is in the offensive zone and the other team is about to take it away, go the other way, he's gotten some takeaways. He's stolen the puck a few times. He's kept the flow going. He's looked good. And that's another frustrating aspect of all of this is, and you're right, is this feels like a player that will not be here very long. But they're playing him because, one, they don't really have any other choice. They have to play him because his trade value is not going to get higher if he's playing in Hartford or sitting up in the stands. Like he's a ninth overall pick, and the Rangers have to play him to show him to other teams. This definitely feels like another one of those situations where he's there, he's physically there, but he won't be physically here for very long. And that's unfortunate because he's looked really good. Like, has he been a world beater? No, because, well, one, he doesn't really get the ice time, and two, like, a lot of the times he's being put on the fourth line, and still, like, even then he's looked more than capable of carrying a line at times. Like this guy clearly has a lot of talent, but if you play him 8 minutes a game and And when he does nothing for you in 8 minutes of action, you have Rangers Facebook fans yelling about how Kravtsov is soft and he should be traded. Like those people
And
legitimately
the thing you got to explain to those people, if you want him to get traded, he needs to have value.
Yeah.
This is a 9th overall pick who has less than 100 games played at the NHL level. His value is a 3rd or a 4th round pick at best.
Yep.
If he plays well, even if it's fluky and he scores a couple goals and you turn him into a prospect defenseman, if you turn him into like what Justin Hall was like 2 years ago, you sign up for that. You need another defenseman, or you need to go out and get one more forward. We talked about Ryan O'Reilly last week. That's the guy I'm going to cling to until we get closer, because Patrick Kane stinks. I don't know.
He stinks, man. He stinks.
He's cherry picking. He's not playing any defense. He stinks. I don't know if you saw the
and he's also 34, so it's not like he's gonna like get much better at this point. I hate trading for the past. You have to trade for the present and the future. If somebody's 34 years old and you're trading for somebody because of what they did a decade ago, and you hope that they could just rekindle that kind of that same energy, you're wishing on a shooting star at that point. You can't just trade for somebody that is past their prime or at the very least like is looking like they are, because of I understand Chicago is a trash can team that isn't going anywhere. So Patrick Kane, maybe at this stage of his career, doesn't feel like he has to give 100% because he's getting paid he's already got his rings. The team is terrible. Why does he have to play a 200-foot game? I understand that kind of argument, but at the same time, like, again, he's not scoring 5-on-5 at all. He's a power play merch. I mean, we're getting back to the Patrick Kane discourse here, but like Patrick Kane is not going to be is not it for the Rangers. But they do need somebody. Ryan O'Reilly would be great. I would love Ryan O'Reilly. He'd be stupendous. But that Ryan O'Reilly essentially hinges on how the Blues do. Because if they win the next 9 out of the next 10, and all of a sudden they look like an actual team again, and Ryan O'Reilly decides, you know what, I actually do want to stay here, let me sign this extension real quick, then that's it. And the Rangers have to go look somewhere else. That's not in Chicago. Please, not in Chicago. But if the
not
Blues
if Jordan Binnington has anything to say about that, Andrew, he's going to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, if Jordan Binnington continues to look like he has been throughout the season, then maybe Ryan O'Reilly does ask out, and the Blues recuperate something for somebody that will walk if they don't. So if there's a lot of different ways that this can go. I guess in essence it's still early because it's still December. The trade deadline is what, like 3 months away. I think it's in
first week of March.
Right. First week. So there's a lot of time left. So we don't know what kind of decisions the Rangers will make, because a lot of this hinges on where teams stand. If the Blues continue to be bad, then the Blues will probably be sellers, and they might try to trade away Tarasenko, O'Reilly, a lot of these guys they're going to keep, like guys like Kyrou and all of these guys, and just giving them essentially 30 minutes a night to just say, hey, play as much as you want, score as much as you want. This is your team now. They can do that way. But if the Blues, like we talked about, if they win 12 of their next 14 or whatever, and Jordan Binnington looks good again and things like that, then you can probably cross ROR off the list, and the Rangers have to go looking at somewhere else. Maybe a team that looks fine now, 6 weeks from now, might have lost like all their games, and now they're going to be out of the mix, and maybe they're going to right. It's we want change now, but the thing about the NHL season is that, especially in December, is that we don't know who's available until they're available, kind of thing. Where it's December, a lot of teams still think that they're in the mix, that they're in the hunt, that they can make the playoffs if they try their darndest. But in a couple months from now, teams will be like, yeah, we're actually just really bad, and they're going to start trading everybody away. So it's early for us to kind of think about who they can get, because we don't know who's available.
So, looking ahead now, we said they have 2 divisional games this week. Christmas break, they come back the following, I think it's Monday. No, because Christmas is Tuesday. They play the Capitals on the 27th. that's the first time they play Washington this year too. So the division is it's going through its first real flow of the season where the things are changing now. The Devils have lost 5 in a row. Carolina's still playing at a decent clip. Pittsburgh has climbed out of the cellar. Washington has gone on a nice run over the last couple of weeks. The Islanders are struggling. They lost to the Coyotes over the weekend, and then they beat Vegas, which speaks to how stupid hockey is, that you could lose to the Coyotes and then the next night beat Vegas with your backup goalie. Just very weird. The Islanders are very hard to get a feel for because they're such an inconsistent team. They're very guilty of playing up to their opponent or down to their opponent. So where we are at now, I want to say the Rangers are closer to the team they've been the last 2 weeks than what they were in November. I don't think they're this good, like results-wise. I don't think you can realistically expect to keep winning with .935 and the power play being pretty much everything. I think you're going to need a little bit more at 5-on-5 to mitigate that for when Shesterkin goes back to being very good as opposed to the best goalie in the league. But where are you in terms of who you're worried about in the division?
It's a good question to ask. The thing about the division is that you take a look at the standings and you go, okay, well, New Jersey's lost a couple in a row here, but are they going to just fall off a cliff? I don't think so. Carolina's won 5 in a row. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10 games, and they look as great as they ever do, as great as they ever have. The question about them is, come playoff time again, like last year where they won a bunch of games and they control pace and they got a lot of shots on goal, but do those shots go in the net? So for Carolina, it's a show me what you can do kind of year for me anyway, for them, as they are a dangerous team. And if you let them into hockey games and if you think, oh, well, they're not that good, we can just skate circles around them, you will get destroyed, because Carolina is a really deep team coached by Rod Brendamore, is one of the best coaches in the league. So if you have that kind of mentality, you will get demolished by them. But they're a team that their goaltending isn't, it's not bad, not great. So if you can get their 5-on-5, the offense going against them, then you can do some damage against them. I mean, Pittsburgh is a team where like they either look incredible or they look awful, and there's no in between. There's some games where you watch them and you go like, this team could go on a run, and then the next day you watch them play again and you go, this is a playoff team? Like, what's going on? Like, they're a very, very strange team by how they play. And even then, they're 18-9-4 over the season so far. They went on a run over the last 10 games. They're 7-2-1. But I would like to see them be a little bit more consistent for my taste. But I mean, we'll get when do they play them on the? They play them tomorrow. So there you go. So we'll that test will be good to see where both teams are. I feel like this is a very good litmus test for both teams, in the sense that the Rangers have won 7 in a row. They've looked good in some games. They've looked really bad, but have won in others. And you have this Pittsburgh team that just went on a little bit of a run themselves. They're still kind of in between of, hey, are we a really good playoff team, or are we a team that can fall apart at any moment? This is going to be a really good test between the two teams. I mean, the Islanders are a team that I never take for granted anymore, considering there's been multiple seasons now where the analytics are like, this team is really bad, and the Islanders are like, nah, we're actually really good. So you can't count them out. For Washington, I think I saw a report that Oshie and Backstrom are coming back soon, so that's going to be a huge boost for them. I think Backstrom's going to need a fair bit of time to get back into speed for him to play at 100%. But that's going to be a more dangerous team now with those two guys back as well. So this is a really scary division. Like the Rangers, if they start losing games here, they can fall out really quickly. So there's not a whole lot of leeway. The Rangers have to keep winning.
And the Rangers have a really difficult schedule because they have so many division games remaining. I mean, yes, they're going to be done with the Islanders after this week, but they got to play Washington and Pittsburgh 3 times each. They have to play the Devils 1 more time. They have to play Carolina, I believe, all 3 more times. It's not easy. Like you said, this is a very difficult division, but I'm not as worried as I was 2 weeks ago. Most importantly, that Igor's going again. That was the biggest thing. It was just a matter of how long it was going to take. I know this is very like stupid to say, but like he did have a kid over the summer, and like, new dad, not sleeping, getting used to being a dad as opposed to just being a goalie. So being a goalie and a dad, goalies are already kind of weird to begin with. Then being responsible for another human being not sleeping particularly well. Goalie's a very tiring position. Being stressed out, being overworked outside of hockey. That's part of this too. The same thing is going on in Calgary with Jacob Markstrom, where him and his girlfriend and now his fiance, they got engaged over the weekend, had a big kid over the summer. You need rest. It is very important to rest as a hockey player, especially as a goalie. Igor is going to be fun. I wasn't that worried that he was going to get going. I don't know if he's going to be as good as he's been so far in the month of December the rest of the way, but if he's like, 4/5 of this, the Rangers will be fine.
If you want to be a top tier goalie or at least above an above average goalie, you need a clear mind. You need rest. You
Yeah.
need a clear mind. The one example that comes to mind, and it's really unfortunate to bring up, and is what's going on in Columbus, where
Yeah.
Elvis Merzlikins, since the tragedy that happened with his goalie partner, has looked awful. Like
Yeah.
in net, he's looked absolutely he hasn't looked like an NHL goalie because his head's not in it. Like
Yeah.
that's what's go like bar none. If everything else equals zero, like Elvis just he's not focused on the game. Like that's it's very clear if you watch him play. A goalie is such a position where if you are not 110% focused on your positioning, where the puck is, where the puck might be, thinking ahead of the play. Like if you're not 100% focused on what's going on in front of you and what might happen in front of you, you're not going to look very good. And for Igor, I mean, yeah, like there that could be one of the factors. Is hey, new dad, not a whole lot of sleep. That factors into the attention level and how well you can focus and all these things. So maybe earlier on when he didn't have a whole lot of sleep, that affected him for sure. Maybe, but the fact of the matter is that the Rangers, like, yes, Shesterkin is making all of these great saves and he's looked great. The one thing that I will say to that is you can't just give up 6, 12, whatever grade A scoring chances a night and then just be like, oh well, Shesterkin's really good, so we can do that and we'll be fine. Like you can't do that either. So while Shesterkin is making a lot of tough saves and he is looking great doing it, the you can't if you're playing in a system like the Rangers are playing in, you can't bank on that. You can't be like, oh well, we can just keep on doing this because Shesterkin's going to keep making these saves. Like you don't want to do that to a goalie either.
Okay, so the last point on this before we wrap up. That is the next step in this process. We were talking about the Rangers finding how they want to play. We know the Rangers want to concede a lot of low danger chances at the expense of high danger. So, in theory, what that would look like is they're going to be out chance. The other team is going to have probably 5 to 10 more scoring chances per game. When the Rangers were at their best last year, during that 12-game stretch between the trade deadline and the end of the regular season, they were controlling the high danger chances. They were fourth in the league in high danger chances for. They were controlling the game at 5-on-5 in that way. They were still getting out chanced overall, but they were creating more dangerous scoring chances. And that's the way this offense is supposed to work. You concede a lot of volume at the expense, you're creating quality. You're giving the other team quantity of scoring chances because you want quality. The Rangers are going to make that extra pass. They are going to rely on transition to create offense. That's where they're going. If they make the moves they need to make and they can get a little bit better defense out of Trouba and Miller, that's the goal. They want to be a high danger chances oriented team. They want to score off the rush. They want to create pressure off the rush. That's what they want to do. It's just a matter of if they're going to be able to get there or not.
That Miller goal, by the way, against Philadelphia, I mean, dude, Jesus, man, what a
that boy nice.
He is him. Like Andre Miller is him. What a goal to not only get tripped on a breakaway, but also get up and then score, dude. That's one of those goals where you in 10, 15 years from now you go, that was the start of something. Like that was one of those like signature plays where you down the road, down Kendra Miller's career, you take a look back and that goal is going to be in the summary. In whatever video thing that, if Kendra Miller like plays his whole career as a Ranger, and eventually he gets a video tribute whenever he's back. Like, that's one of the goals that appears if for whatever reason 15 years down the line Kane Dribbler gets traded and first game back as a in the Madison Square Garden. That's going to be a goal in the video tribute when he returns. Like, that's one of those just defining goals that a player gets to have in the NHL. And boy, that was special. That was a really clean goal. Again, the Philadelphia Flyers are a bad team, and I understand that, but the goal itself, that was pretty.
Andrew Miller quietly on pace for 40 points this year. His defense
That boy
has got to
nice.
be a little bit. His defense has got to be a little bit better. Granted, some of that is the burden of playing with Trouba, who they haven't been great at 5-on-5.
No,
But the last stat I want to sneak in here before we get out of here. So during the losing streak, where they up to the game against the Blackhawks at the first time, Jacob Trouba, when he was on the ice, the Rangers at 5-on-5, 16% of the goals. 16% of the goals, not expected goals, not scoring chances, the goals, the pucks that went in the net. During this 7-game winning streak, 64% of the goals. Granted, the underlying numbers are not pretty. They are still getting outchanced when he is on the ice. The save percentage is up to 93%. The shooting percentage is up to 14%. Therein lies the answer to why the Rangers are winning these games. The goaltending is better. They're getting bounces they weren't getting earlier in the season. Okay, the three stars of the game graphic didn't want to load, so real quick, give me your 3 and we'll get out of here.
So my 3, if I want to pull up my text real quick because my memory does not exist.
Kravtsov, Fox.
Yes, Hito, Kravtsov, and Fox. I mean, for those 3, Hito looked really good. He has looked really good. He's looked like a solid player. Should have been the second line center. Maybe they should have signed a third line center that wasn't Vincent Trocheck, and so Filipino.
Hey, he's walking here, Andrew. Respect him.
When I texted you this last night, but when I saw that tweet, I'm like, you're insane, but also you're a genius. Like, that was such an impeccable video out of you, and props to you for making that. Yeah, I mean, listen, like, I got nothing against Vincent Trocheck as a player or as a person, but that, first of all, that contract stinks. Second of all, like, Filipino is looking like a second line center. He is looking like somebody that deserves to be in the top 6, looking like somebody that can take over that role full time, but he can't really do that now because you paid Trocheck all this money to do that, and now Hito is kind of stuck in that third line center role. That's kind of weird, but he's looked really good. So he gets a star. Kravtsov scored that goal like we talked about earlier. He's looked good in the minutes that he's getting. He's more than just a non-factor. He's out there making plays on both ends of the ice. He's taking the puck away. He's creating chances. He's making things happen. They might not all go in the net, but he is doing positive things out there for his hockey team. And Adam Fox, I mean, what can I say about this man that we haven't said or has anybody else has ever said about Adam Fox? I mean, what a joy to watch. What a privilege that he's on the team that we enjoy watching, because, man, we get to watch a lot of Adam Fox, and he's a special kind of talent where there's not a whole lot of him out there in the NHL or on the planet for that matter. And just watching him play, he's so confident with the puck. He's making all these plays that pretty much nobody else does. He gets a star. He played so well this week, and those are my 3 stars.
Yeah, real quick, I'll be brief. Adam Fox, Fitz said it today on Twitter. Adam Fox makes the most ridiculous things look so easy because of how smooth he is in every single facet of the game. Like, if any other defenseman routinely made the plays he was making, it'd be like an oh my god thing. But we're so privileged that this guy's been on our team for 3 years already, and he's incrementally getting better. He's right now, I would say he's the front runner or one of the front runners for the Norris. He's been outstanding this year. He's got the second most expected goals above replacement of anybody in the entire league, forward or defenseman. He's only behind Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. That's pretty good company. I also had Shesterkin for the reasons we said before. He went up the goal saved above expected leaderboard. He's got a .935 save percentage in the month of December. And my last one, I had Kakko. He's gotten on the score sheet a couple times the last few weeks, and because he has more goals at 5-on-5 than Patrick Kane this year, that's why he's my 3rd star of the week. Before we get out of here, gotta remind everyone, please make sure you are subscribed to the show wherever you choose to get your content. We're on all the major podcasting platforms. If you prefer the video version, we're on YouTube. We're live every Monday on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to your preferred means of content. On Twitter and Instagram, Liberty Boo Pod. You can see silly things. I have a Jimmy Vesey graphic in the bank for the next time Jimmy Vesey scores a goal. That I'm sure, if you're a movie head, you'll enjoy that reference. That's in that one. Make sure you're following Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And that's Andrew Chelney. His personal Twitter is Chelney Andrew, Chelney. Mine, Nick Zararis, Nick Zararis. I hope everybody has a good holiday this upcoming weekend. Everybody be safe out there. Bad shit usually happens during the holidays, unfortunately. Please be safe out there. Have a good holiday. We'll see you next week. Let's see if the Rangers can pick up 2 more wins.
Happy holidays. Later.